The August 2nd Grand Forks County Commission meeting will come to order. All commissioners are present. The first matter for us is the approval of the minutes. Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Approval of the order of the agenda. Any changes from any commissioners? Hey, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Peach, second. Second by Knopf. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. The approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items that any commissioner would like to hold? We have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda or the consent agenda.
Thank you. Second. Second by Commissioner Ross. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is passed. The next matter is Jim Stewart of Arneson, Stewart and Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasure to be representing Grand Forks County as bond counsel again. We have several items for your consideration today. These are in connection with the financing for the Corrections Center. So under state law, the county is allowed to levy 10 mills under a capital projects levy to finance correction centers and additions. You're also allowed to issue bonds payable from the 10 mil levy. And those bonds can be issued without an election if certain procedures are followed. Basically, the county adopted an initial resolution at the May 25th meeting, and that resolution has been published in the Grand Forks Herald. There's a 60-day protest period that's allowed. So the county auditor has a certificate indicating that the protest period has expired and that no protests were filed. We also have a resolution for your consideration that determines that the 60-day protest period has expired without any protests being filed. And so the county is now authorized to proceed with the sale of the bonds for the Corrections Center. The other resolution for your consideration is a resolution that would provide for the public sale of up to 35 million in bonds to finance the Corrections Center. In addition, the state law requires that bonds of over $1 million be sold through a public sale procedure. Among other things, it requires a notice to be published in the Grand Forks Herald at least one time between 10 and 30 days prior to the sale. There are a number of other important procedures that public financial management, your financial advisor will go through in terms of offering those bonds for sale. And I think Ann Willette is on the call as well, and she can explain some of the procedures that the financial advisor goes through in soliciting proposals for your bonds from prospective investors. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay. No, we don't. Maybe we could hear from Ms. Willette.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. What I would like to do is just go over the process from a very high level. as to what is entailed with selling bonds in the open market. Typically, what we will do is we will set a sale date, and that typically happens in month one, which may be happening this evening as well. And then what we do is we start preparing offering documents. It's called a preliminary official statement. We gather information from the county and we put together this, it's like a prospectus, put it together to be presented to investors prior to the bond sale. Now, when we set the sale date, we set a sale date and time, typically on a commission meeting date. And we make all the preparations with the prospectus and going through the credit rating process prior to that. And then we also market that prospectus. Once we publish it out to investors, we market it and we call different underwriting firms all over the country and just let them know that it's coming to market, and answer any questions that they may have. And so hopefully we can make this process as painless as possible. And if you have any questions as to how the process will proceed from here, feel free.
I don't see any questions right now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, there are two items that we should take care of before the resolution is passed.
Okay.
One is to pass a motion for me to sign that no protest filed certificate.
And you received no protest.
I did not.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Roth. Protest document filed.
I second that, the resolution determining a no protest for filed on page 40 of the document.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, there's also a resolution determining that no protests were filed. And so I would need a motion for that.
Well,
Isn't that the first one?
that's what we just did.
The certification of your, what you had to
You
say.
to sign, but you have to pass a resolution as well.
Okay, all right. So let's back up.
Mr. Peach, I think.
Pardon me, Commissioner Peach.
I would move forward with the resolution, Mr. Chair, determining that no protests were filed.
A second on that. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Engen. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. So let's go back to that first one and make sure that we've got that right.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the one that says certificate of business manager, no protest filed, you can just sign that. That didn't require us to have a motion to have her sign it. Correct? But on page 36. It just says Debbie Nelson duly appointed qualified and active.
You can sign that on your own.
Okay.
And
And
then
then on page 40,
take care of,
there's resolution.
we took care of page 39, the resolution that no protests were filed. That was passed.
What that was for.
It might-
39 is certification of that. Yeah, misnumbered, but anyway, the one entitled resolution determining that no protest the filed, you're right, so we took care of that.
So the next item is whether or not you want to pass a resolution for public sale of limited tax capital fund bonds. There was discussion. I found out that they were not going to start on this project for a year. And so whether or not we should issue bonds a year in advance, it's now come back with 6 months, probably this spring. They're going to start on the bonds, spring of 2023, or start on the building. So it's not as much time and interest rates are climbing, so.
Commissioner,
Well, if we lock in now, maybe 6 months from now, we'll be happy about it, or maybe we won't be. So I wish we had a crystal ball to know what interest rates will do, but maybe it still makes sense to go ahead.
yeah, I think every indication is they're going higher, so it's.
Yep.
When we figure this out over 20 years, even if it goes up a quarter of a point, that's a lot of money over 20 years, so. And it's probably gonna go more. Let me see here. Mr. Stewart,
Yes,
you know, in your mind, be sound business sense to lock in now?
I think your financial advisor is probably in a better position to answer that.
That's the button.
Pass it on to you, Ann.
I think we've all read the paper and watched the Federal Reserve, so.
Yeah,
Uh,
so my colleagues and I were actually discussing this today, especially with the change in schedule and starting construction or groundbreaking in the spring. And like you said, there's every indication that rates will continue to increase. The market has been very volatile this year. We've seen quite large increases since the beginning of the year. Right now, within the last couple of weeks, rates have been kind of declining a little bit, but we expect the volatility to continue and the general trajectory to be upwards for interest rates. So I am of the opinion that it makes sense to move forward now and lock in a rate and kind of mitigate that interest rate risk in the next 6 months.
All right. So then we need a resolution for public sale of limited tax capital funds. Series 2022.
I'll move that resolution we provide for public sale of limited tax capital project fund bond series 2022. That's set forth in our documents. And there's some things in there that require the auditor to the notice of sale and some of those things. So whatever attachments apply to the resolution should be part of the resolution with that.
Second. Diane's got it.
Okay, Diane.
Now second,
Commissioner
that
Knopf
if
does
you
this.
want to change or add with chair's signature.
That's a good idea.
All right,
Thank
we have
you.
a chair signature,
I always forget.
I know.
motion and a second. Any further discussion on it from any commissioner? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. So I think that might be all that we need from our financial people. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Next thing on the agenda is the special event permit from Good Friends.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I assumed that she would be here for the special event permit. It's Emily Rosen. And so maybe she's coming.
If you need to be here,
She talked to you, Randy?
She said she did.
Chairman Paul, members of the commission, I did speak with Emily about this request a few weeks ago and let her know that we don't have any concerns with it at the sheriff's office. Typically, what we did with her last event at Trail River State Park is I just notified the park ranger. They're peace officers, they have no issues covering it. They've had no problems with events that they've posted there in the past. So from the sheriff's office side of it, we approve of the event.
She paid the.
No, she was over.
We can approve it. Yeah, like we can approve it contingent on
On our paying the $25. I would make that motion.
Okay, motion to approve the special event permit for Bush Grants contingent on paying the $25 fee. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Peach. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Now we have Mr. Clever.
Thank you for offering the floor. Last time I was here, Mr. Falk made a joke at my expense. I expect I'll have a couple more. And there's been an interim report sent to Mr. Ford. Hopefully everybody's got it in front of you. There's lots and lots of words. Sometimes you need to do that to kind of clarify your thoughts and get to the bottom line. So if I can, I'll just start at the bottom line.
Yeah, that's what we'd like.
The facility's got its issues and you're aware of both its condition and its kind of the geometry of the thing. Okay, it's a bit unorthodox. But the bottom line is the net present value of the repairs needed now is low enough. It's under 30% of replacement costs, and that's an accepted industry standard threshold to proceed with repairs and not replacement. And then, so that's kind of a 2 to 3 year cycle of fixes in the structure, repairs, whatever term we want to use. A big part of the assessment was a longer term asset management plan where you do the initial cost to make short-term repairs. And I say short-term in a sense that they're durable, but you have to do them in a fairly quick cycle. So, but the asset management plan then considers those kind of recurring cash flows that have to happen in a facility. Joint sealants, fixed lights here and there, nominal repairs as they come up. And that net present value is still below a replacement threshold. So even the long term with consideration of future maintenance, it's still a better financial decision to repair it and proceed than it is to replace it. So that's probably the highest level summary of work to date. And I suspect that's probably the biggest question that was in front of our team is answering it. Do we repair it or replace it? Our recommendation right now, the finance are best to repair it. There's obviously concerns in there, and people use the facility, those of, especially you guys who probably use it a lot, staff and other contracted partners. There are issues, there's concrete that's loose, that's very evident. Each of that structures, consists of individual structural members next to each other, but they're supposed to be attached. So when a wheel drive over it, one side doesn't move and the other doesn't. They're supposed to move concurrently. Well, those connectors are broke. And a couple of years ago, there was a large project to start replacing those. And what this report's going to tell you is all those connections are going to have to be repaired. And then with that, there's concrete on the edges of each panel that has to be repaired. That's just something that's going to have to get done. As part of that, the expansion joints, the kind of black rubbery things, those joints got to get replaced as well. Again, it's evident when you use the facility, we're just putting in words what seems obvious to people who use the facility. This facility, and it's not uncommon for other facilities of that vintage, didn't have a waterproofing membrane on the top. And there's two ways to kind of add durability to concrete. One, you can coat it with it's not a rubber surface, but it's flexible enough that it can stay adhere to the concrete when the structure moves. That's a waterproofing membrane, and it is the best way to do it. Or you can apply a liquid that actually penetrates in the concrete. The concrete still looks like concrete, but it densifies it and closes the pores in the concrete, so you don't get salts and water to infiltrate in there. Neither of those were done. That's not a fault or a flaw. It was actually very common at the time. But one of the recommendations is going to be to add either of the two options. And we can't assess the scope of that. And the waterproofing membrane is more expensive. The penetrating sealer is less expensive. But we don't know the extent of either of those until the next project begins, where we do chloride testing of the concrete. You'll actually drill little cores out of it, take powder out of that hole, test it, and determine if there's salt from the road salts. And depending on the test results, then you can be a little more specific on how much of the less expensive you use or how much of the more expensive. So right now, in the asset management plan and in those initial costs, we're assuming the most expensive of the two options everywhere on the structure. It's just a cautious choice to make when we start to allocate and plan ahead. There are some areas of ponding, and there have been, I think, effective projects in the past to add some drains to kind of capture the ponding. At the time, it didn't catch it all. I don't think it was presented to catch all that ponding. So there'll be the recommendations would be another series of spot improvements to add drains to capture the ponding. Short term, it was actually kind of suggested to squeegee water to a drain. It's certainly an administrative option. Nobody would present that as a long-term option. Like, you don't want people going up there to squeegee it every time it rains. Okay, it's not common sense. But nonetheless, the consultant wanted that to be reported. Not because it's recommended, but sometimes you gotta put things out there for consideration to give other tools to manage a facility. So the long-term recommendation is another series of spot installation of floor drains. The joint sealants, they're just about every 7 years, you gotta replace all your joints. That's a common maintenance schedule for these kinds of structures. We're not getting that lifespan out of the joints right now because of the other issues. The joints move too much, so the joint sealants can't stay adhered. And the edges of the deck are still falling out because the connections are broken. So part of the recommendation is to go through and do all the joint sealants again. That's an initial cost. And then again, in the long-term asset management plan, that recurring cost of joint sealants is built into that 20-year cost cycle. So that's the summary of the asset management plan. In hard numbers, 2.4 million in net present value for those initial project costs, 5.1 million in net present value costs for the 20-year cycle.
Interrupt just 1 minute. Is the 2.4 then factored into the 5.1, or is
Yes.
that 5.1 in addition to?
They're inclusive of each other.
Okay, all right,
So the 5.1 million is a 20-year cycle of costs.
yeah,
And it's important to note, those are all net present value. So they're cost estimates made on today's costs. There's no consideration of finance, carrying costs, things of that nature, because that's strongly influenced by, the project cycle that gets planned out. So again, I don't think I can stress it enough, that those are all net present value costs.
Mr. Chair,
yes,
a question about the electrical costs. Have they factored into the they are part of that?
They are not.
So it's 7.8.
It'd be 5.6 million or so. It's a 500, right now, our working number is $500,000 for electrical.
Oh, okay. But it says electrical costs are not yet included, probably 2.9 million.
Well, that would be a typo, sir. It would be 2.4 million plus 500,000.
It's this line right here on page 2.
Your bullet
Electrical
point.
costs not yet included, probably 2.9 million NPV.
That would be a sum. 2.4 million plus 500,000.
I guess.
Okay,
Good.
all right.
Yeah, that's a lot of electrical work.
Scared me.
Now we're giving you credit for good news.
All right.
So not so much better though.
Yeah.
So let me see if I got that right. It's the 2.4 million for everything that you've identified here,
Structural work.
structural work,
And
plus the 500,000, plus. We
Whatever.
haven't done a
difference
deep
between
dive on
5.1
that. I
Well,
mean,
2
who
point,
knows what we're gonna find
the-
out.
the 5.1 is the 20-year
Yeah.
cost of the initial 2.4 million plus future maintenance work. And then so the work not yet finished is finalizing the electrical work. So the 2.9 million is that short-term cost plus 500,000. So it'd be 5.1, Commissioner Knopf, 5.1 million plus 500,000 for that 20-year asset management cost.
All inclusive best estimate right now,
Best estimate, yeah, good faith, construction costs
in today's money.
in today's. Thank you.
So the last time that we did a study was when we've done several studies. Parking ramp was an issue when I came on the commission in 2006. And that parking ramp would have only been, it was built in probably 1998, 1999, because this building opened in 2000.
Correct, it had been about
And
17
so
years
it was
old.
about 7 years in there and we already were having big issues. And we've done multiple studies over the years. And so some of these things I didn't compare. Were they identified in prior studies?
It's my recollection, yes.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Knopf, I can speak to that a little bit. So the last study was done when did COVID happen? 2019? Study was done late 2017, early 2018. The necessary repairs, so yes, many of those were identified in the same two reports. The bill for those repairs back then was approaching $900,000. And the county took care of the necessary need to get done tomorrow repairs, and that cost us $437,000. And to Mr. Clemens' point, they didn't hold because of now all these other issues.
Well, and from reading the report that you sent, I mean, there was a lot of ifs yet, because until you get into something, you don't even know what's behind that cement or the problem, or the corrosion or whatever.
That's right, and we don't anticipate we would find a lot of corrosion problems beyond the edge of the deck. You know, Walker, who does this a lot, I've done some of that restoration work. Generally, when you get away from joints, the rebar's in good shape. And if it were corroding, we'd see it. Because the concrete above it just falls loose.
But then you have really big problems.
Then you'd have much bigger problems than we're seeing.
So tell me this, what does it cost? What would be an estimate to include it?
Included?
I don't know if I could guess that one right now. Implode it and remove it?
Yep.
I mean, you're well into 6 figures. There's no doubt 300,000-400,000 and that is off the cuff.
Yeah.
Gut shot.
Well, you know, but it's something, I don't disagree with Commissioner Knopf, that maybe we have to give some consideration to. One of our problems, of course, is surface parking would be limited, but I did a quick little math here that 5.6 million that averages 280,000 a year for 20 years to keep that thing going. We don't bring that much income off of it.
And that's why your request to get that long-term asset management was it's an astute question. You know, capital money now is not the same as capital money now plus maintenance money later. So having that full life cycle of expected maintenance costs, that's great information to have to make those decisions.
So for me, I'm sorry.
Well, you finish up.
For me, I mean, I would like to see us repair it, do the 280,000 or whatever a year, but financially, to add that to our budgets every year. Plus, we don't, there's gonna be more here. I just know it. I can feel it. You know,
But it won't be 280 a year. We're gonna have to come up with 2.4 million.
yeah, and so how do we do that? And so,
Yeah.
you know, and we do, you know, I know parking is an issue for everyone, but the city has a parking ramp over here too. I don't know if that's full. I don't think it is. I mean, the times I've been in there, there's spots. So I mean, it's like, yeah, they probably, staff would probably, and us, whoever, you know, we're gonna have to walk a distance, but not in big city.
Commissioner Engen, you had your hand.
That was the question. How many people do we have parking in there every day, and where would they end up? And like you say, in Minneapolis, for example, I've done the 3-block walk
Oh, yeah.
to where I had to go. So it's not out of the question.
I think those are some things that we're gonna have to look into before we make a decision on this project.
Mr. Chair, again, pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's kind of like saying BCAD. We had looked at that. And there's 330 spots in the ramp. I want to say then it was just north of 200 were reserved, whether that was employees, tenants, or fleet. Fleet being Northeast Human Services, public health, and social services, now human service. So, and I don't think it's that many now, because some are remote working, but that just kind of gives you an idea of where we're at pre-pandemic.
Even like on the second floor, you go up there, there's half of it seems to be, it's streetcars on that second floor. You know, it seems like almost half of it is empty. And you go to third floor, the only time that we have, it's busy is when there's court dates. And, you know, but otherwise staff are, you know, they don't want to, they struggle paying the monthly charge now. And for us to raise that, we're gonna even have less than that. And so, you know.
The city,
Costs are huge.
the city has recently took a look at their parking fees in their 2 ramps. And if the commission recalls, again, before COVID, I was working with the city on that. They adjusted their fees to be tiered, which is basically you pay a certain amount if it's 24/7. You pay a certain amount if it's Monday through Friday, 7 to 5. And then other than that, your first 2 hours are free, but then after that, you have to pay by the hour. And the city has something we don't, which is sales tax. So they're able to divert a lot of sales tax into keeping those facilities up, maintaining them, preparing them. They did invest quite a bit of money in updating the ramps. But one of the reasons they went into looking at the fees is pulling in more money to take care of the issues of the ramp. The county subsidizes a large percentage of our parking ramp. The county has not adjusted its parking fees. I can't remember the last time we did. We did not adjust them in lockstep with the city. But that's the third level. If you park on the third level, you're not paying anything to park in that third level. If you park in the second level or the first level, you are paying. So not only is the county subsidizing the ramp, and it always will in some portion, but then the employees of the tenants that are paying to keep that ramp up, while those using the third level are parking for free. So there has been a concern expressed from the employees about that as well. Some are paying, some are using it for free, and we got to keep the ramp up. So those are some other things to consider is if the ramp were to stay. And I don't like the parking ramp. I'll just say it from a staff standpoint, it's a black hole for money and it's a public safety issue. And you've heard Mr. Yashewski talk about that a few times. And so it becomes a budgetary issue as well. Like if we want to invest in bringing it up to the 2.4 recommendation and then the maintenance plan, It's a policy budgeting issue going forward.
We pay the city to maintain.
We do not.
Oh, I thought we did.
We used to. We got out of that in 2016. We hired
So what does that cost?
So the facilities staff basically maintain it to the best of their ability. If there's a major problem, we have a contractor come in and take care of it. For snow removal, we pay Greg's landscaping to do snow removal.
You know, I'm sorry, I've always had such a problem because you can't even get an ambulance up to the second floor. I mean, if anybody fell and broke a hip or whatever on the ice because everything's so steep up there, I don't even know how they could make it that steep. You know, it's hard to get a car up there. It is. I mean, I parked in there for 22 years. And, but you know, if somebody fell and hurt themselves or had a heart attack or whatever, I mean, you can't even get an ambulance.
We had that happen today.
The ceilings are too low and the ramp, they're,
You know, Commissioner Knopf, I'll be receiving a claim. I'm anticipating a claim from Northeast Human Services for further damage to their fleet vehicles from the ramp, so.
that was a big issue for years.
Next.
Question from Mr. Clement. Safety. If we're having chunks falling down, do we need to decide what to do here reasonably soon?
I would put it on the very soon list, actually, and it's not in the summary report, but there's actually a recommendation for twice annual inspections to go through and literally kind of glue concrete in place if you see loose concrete. Totally a colloquial term, but I think it's evocative of what would have to happen. So yeah, I actually do think it's not from a collapse issue, because it's not gonna collapse, but just that kind of sundry sort of vehicle damage. What if something falls on somebody, you know? Yeah, I'd say it's a very short-term decision. How's that for a fuzzy answer?
No, that's what I was asking.
Yes,
Commissioner Fulop, other commissioners. The other thing to consider too is over here, if we have to expand, you know, the building goes here for the sheriff or whatever, that lot's gone. And if the ramp goes, where's everybody gonna park? You know,
But we don't know for sure if we're gonna have the building over here.
no, we're
We
not,
have-
but
We have space in this building, and well, I won't be here to complain. But we have space,
You're right, though.
we have space in this building right here. And you could make more space in this building right here to accommodate much of our staff. And so to build a new, and it might not be totally convenient for everybody, but we have plenty of room here without building a new building over there.
Yeah.
So you have a parking lot over there that we could continue to use. Try to buy the land next to that cemetery or to the funeral home, the old funeral home.
Yeah.
Turn that into a parking lot. You got this as a parking lot.
Take out the old sheriff.
You know, on the other side of the old Deaconess Hospital or whatever it is that's down here.
the old jail can go too.
We own that land. That can be parking. Half of this, not half, but there are people that are walking that far anyhow, because if you watch on Third Street, they're all parking on Third Street and it goes down every bit as far as they're walking to go to past the old hospital here. I mean, it's actually closer. So, I mean, we have options.
we'd have some option. There'd be some parking once we knock down the old jail also.
That's the one.
Yes, yes,
I mean, that's not a lot, it might be
Right.
25 spaces, I don't know.
absolutely. I forgot about that.
But we'd have to, yeah, but I think those are things that we need to think about. Maybe put it until the next meeting. We've got a lot of different things going around here, and there are, Commissioner Knopf makes a couple of good points about the lot over there. I've talked to the city about that. I think that's a possibility. So we should think about that, and then we have to decide whether we want to be committed for 5.6 million or we don't, so. So, you know, the other side of the coin, I think by taking it down, buying some property, that would also, we could knock down that correction, that old jail for, you know, probably in total for $1 million or $1.2 million. We have 75.6. We're still gonna be short of parking, you know, that, one of the problems is a lot of issues. When we have jury trials down here, all of a sudden, someday we have 90 more cars in this area. And, you know, it becomes difficult for the public, I know that. So. But, I don't know, we're not gonna come up with the answer today.
No.
What else have you got, Mr. Clevin? Anything?
No, if you folks are satisfied with the information to date, then I'm very satisfied. So I'm here for questions.
I think we're satisfied with the information. We don't like it, but I think we're satisfied with it.
I can only get the message.
I know.
All
I know.
right, well, thank you very much.
You bet, I appreciate it very much. Public health, yes, excuse me. Focus on that ramp.
Chairman Falk and members of the commission, I do not have a COVID-19 update for you, even though it does say that on your agenda. The dashboard was sent out on Friday by Michael, so if you have any questions, you can either inquire of Michael or send me an email. I'll be happy to answer them. And on the topic of communicable diseases, I'll be sending out a brief update on monkeypox sometime in the next week to let everyone know about our response to that emerging infectious disease as well. But the focus of what I want to speak to you today is the agreement that you have before you between the county and the city for our school nurse program for the schools that we cover. And the purpose of the update to this agreement is threefold. Two of them are on page 1. And we are now have moved from CARES funding to ARPA funding. Both are COVID related, but they're slightly different allocations from the federal government. So Ms. Lomstead did update the agreement to reflect that. And then down under number 1, the term of the agreement has been changed from July 1 to June 30th of next year to incorporate this next school year and continue on the agreement that we currently have. And then the last change to the agreement is on page 2, number 3, compensation. There was a slight increase from the previous grant, and it's now at $203,840. So if you agree with all other content within the agreement that was prepared by Ms. Lomstead, you can go ahead and take action on it, or if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Just one question, is the 203,000 plus in our budget?
It would be in the ARPA bucket.
Okay,
But there's a slight increase, so.
right.
I don't know what the difference is.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, Ms. Nelson, the previous allocation that we had was for $178,000. So there was a little bit of an increase, and I haven't gone back and looked at exactly what line items it is, but a little bit of it is travel and technology, but the vast majority is in salary and fringe because of increased costs from 2020 to 2022. So our original funding lasted us a little bit longer than we had anticipated, just due to some recruitment challenges, but we've been fully staffed for the last year now. Have any additional questions?
And I'm assuming you need a motion for us to approve this agreement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
All those approval will be ready.
I'll second that
The
motion.
agreement between the city and the county on public health, right? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments on this? Yes, Mr.
I would like to comment, Ms. Swanson. I know that the rural schools are very happy that they have a healthcare professional there. Very happy that the staffing of this project is not under the school district. It is being managed through public health. It's bringing a whole healthcare profession that doesn't have an administrator by chance saying they can still have the basketball game or the football game or the whatever. And I think that's been huge. Parents haven't always been happy, but this isn't funding to forward some athletic issues when COVID is an issue. It's looking at the health and safety of our kids, the health and safety of an entire community, as well as the faculty and administration in the school districts. So I applaud the county and your staff and everyone who's been a part of this, because I think it's wonderful. And hopefully the legislature will realize how important having public health nurses in the school districts are, because it's huge. Lots of kids go there with asthma, with diabetes, with lots of health concerns that individuals don't know enough about. And at least a nurse is there, and granted, that particular nurse may not know everything about a particular disease, but at least if they're aware that a child or a staff member is dealing with it, they have the opportunity to research it more and be able to be that person necessary if something happens, or just to make sure that they're getting the meds that they need. So I think it's a wonderful program.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, as I recall. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Juvenile detention. Ms. Fain.
Good afternoon, Chairman Falk and members of the commission. We are here today to get approval on the MOU for attendance care. Bridgie wrote this up, but she was unable to be here today, but I hope that we can answer some of the questions for you if you have any. If you don't, I know that Ms. Longstead did look over it as well, so she might be able to field some questions as well.
Do we have any questions on this? Can we see that?
Scroll down.
Yeah, scroll down, please.
The question, is it any changes to what we've seen before? It's a renewal.
I believe it's a renewal.
I don't recall whether there are changes here. Ms. Wamstead can probably tell us that.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I did have an opportunity to review this agreement. I didn't notice any substantive changes since the last time. I think it's just more of a renewal to update from the last grant agreement that was in place.
Thank you. Let's-
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the attendant care MOU.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Knopf to approve the attendant care MOU. Any further questions on it? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thank you. Ms. Nelson, it's your turn.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, at the last meeting, I went through the preliminary budget and everything that was included in the budget, and I won't do that again today, but I'll just tell you about the changes that have occurred since the last meeting. I did add 1 mil to the capital construction that was requested by the commission at the last meeting. And that will bring us closer to $35 million that we wanted to go for. but not quite. There's an IT budget increase of $27,000. There was a line item that was requested at $3,000, but actually it should have been requested at $30,000, so we had to add $27,000 for that. NDSU extension decreased a line item in their budget for $5,204, so that's been deducted. One thing that was talked about at the last meeting is there's $121,000 in the Director of Administration's budget for the base retention.
Consultants.
So, and it was postponed and no action was taken. It's still in the budget. There was comments made, maybe we could do it part of the year. And so I'm just wondering if you want $121,000 left in the budget or not.
Comments from the commission?
The, one of the discussions was through June 30th. What number would that be in the budget if we left it in? 58?
56. Yes, sir, 56,000.
We also had discussion on, was that a recommendation? Where did that recommendation come from? Where?
If we were to not fund it for 23, that came from me. So I did receive from the county commission. If there was ever a time to not renew, if I thought this was a comfortable time. In the past, no, but pure economics and where we're at with the air base in Grand Sky, I would be comfortable if the commission chose not to fund for another year.
So tell me this, if at some point down the road, we would terminate it, the contract, and so sometime down the road, we needed these gentlemen, their expertise. I mean, they would be there to help us for a fee, would they not?
Maybe, maybe not.
Or is it just because they have the personal contact with
So do our
the right
legislators.
people? Huh?
So do our legislators.
Yes.
I think our consultants will seek other business and they will be retained, and so then they would not be
Be
available.
available.
That would be my guess. Yes, Commissioner.
In my view, we won't fund the whole year, but I would like to see us fund 56 through June 30th, because that gets us one more Pentagon visit for the community next year, where, as we all know who are involved with these gentlemen, they know everybody, and they get us in places that we probably, for example, the ACC visit that's coming up in October. They know the names and the different directors we should go see. They know the people in each of the spots and who were there and who are coming in. And at some point, because they're retired, they won't have those contacts any longer, but they certainly have them now. And if it was up to me to make the decision, and of course it's not, it's all of us, I would like to see it at 56,000 if they're willing to do another half year rather than another full year. Maybe Mr. Ford can enlighten us on their viewpoint of what they would do if we suggest half year. But that's how I'd like to see it for that period of time. I understand the budget thing is so tight, we don't know, it squeaks. I mean, we just can hardly do anything. I do understand 121,000 is a lot of money to get everything there. And that's my thoughts.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, and I did visit with the generals. I only felt it was the right thing to do to give them a heads up that the discussion's happening. And I framed it in the manner of county's got budget decisions to make. And where the base is at and where it's going. And with Grand Sky and where it's at and where it's about to go. This was why we were having the discussion. They understood. They've been with the community since 2014. It is important to clarify, though, that the county has not been paying for them since 2014. That's a misconception. If you recall, we paid for them through the state grant, which was decided not to be funded anymore. So the county's been retaining them since 2019. That's an important clarification. But that being said, they understood and they're comfortable with whatever the decision the commission makes, so they understand. The other thing is when the BRIC is thinking about Pentagon visits and Langley Air Force Base visits and 16th Air Force Base visits, there are certain times you want to go. And they would actually, our consultants would say the spring and the summer would not be the right time to go to the Pentagon. Because you want to get there or about the fall. That's when we tend to go. But that's when you see change out and new generals, new commanders go in and out, new directors go in and out. So I feel I should just advise the commission on that point. But they're fine with whatever the commission decides.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would confer with Commissioner Engen. Granted, there's a lot of growth, potential growth. We've seen wonderful things happen out at the base, moving to an ACC military installation. That doesn't happen often. Usually they're downgraded, not upgraded, not improved or enhanced. I don't know if we didn't have those consultants available since 2014, if we would have been where we're at today. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of connections, and I would be concerned that if we don't hang on to them at least for till June, the end of June of next year, and we may just be able to find other funding sources to help support that project. We haven't spent a ton of the county's money. We've used the state's money when they gave us some grant opportunities to do that. And so I feel strongly too that we need to continue that relationship because I just am concerned that we could miss something because of their expertise.
So the commissioner, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Peach, just to clarify, 56,000 would be 6 months of retainer and one travel.
How many times have we, I mean, they've been valuable and thank God we have them over the years. But I mean, earlier on, when we were using them to the fullest compared to where we are today, I mean, projects. I mean, it's nice because they know everybody, but whether it's now or next fall, and they're no longer here, if we do the 6 months, we're gonna have to fly on our own anyhow and get to know these people, in Bismarck, if we go to the Pentagon and things like that. I mean, it's always nicer when somebody knows and can set some of those things up for you but we have an expert here. And I got all the faith in the world in our expert here, so.
No one can open the doors like General Rue and Finley. I mean, I'll say this, and I am really torn. Meeting Generals Rue and Finley has really been the highlight of my term on the commission. They're unlike anybody I've ever met in my life. When it comes to experts in military, those gentlemen are it, and they're just extraordinary. When they're in a room, they command the room, so to speak, even with individuals who are still active military. They're invaluable. They can open up doors at Air Combat Command. General Rue is second in command at Air Combat Command. Most of the pilots that fly now are ranked at Air Combat Command. A lot of them flew under General Rue. They saluted him all through their career. So he has great respect there. With that said, I tend to agree with Mr. Ford. I'm a budget person and I just have problems with our budget and concerns about it. But I think we're at a point where the base is relatively stable with a new mission. You know, if there's a time that we're able to do without consultants, this might be it, you know, say that. So, Commissioner Ing.
Just one more thought. The 6-month extension makes it a year from now. And essentially, and by that time, the new mission, I think, will be solidified. There will be building out there. We may know more. You're shaking your head, Mr. Ford. Don't think I thought they were going to start groundbreaking in the spring of next year.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, it depends on which new mission. So we have Testing Management Resource Center has acquired all the Block 30s and 20s. And so Testing Management Resource Center is an entity of Department of Defense, just like the Air Force, the Army, the Coast Guard, the Space Force. You have AFWorks, you have TMRC. So Testing Resource Management Center, I'll say TMRC. So they are not Air Force operated anymore. They're now going to be centrally located and operated at Grand Sky, which is still on Grand Forks Air Force Base. So the Block 40s are still operated out of Grand Forks Air Force Base. The SDA mission, the Space Development Agency mission, there is a ribbon cutting. There is construction that will start very soon on the Space Development Agency side. So that mission is the low Earth orbit mission. I could take me another 45 minutes to explain what that mission is going to do, but it's basically another ISR capability. So they'll be launching and controlling all these satellites from Grand Forks Air Force Base. The next ISR mission that has been announced that the base is supposed to receive realistically 2030 is when that mission would, if we don't know what it is, we'll never know what it is. The base has moved on from tankers, bombers, fighters, sounds and sights of freedom to classified missions. So we don't draw, there could be missions out there now, and that's just me speculating. But it just depends on the new mission. TMRC, yep, you're going to see all that start moving very, very soon. That's on the Grand Sky side. The county and the community celebrate that. That's a huge win. SDA, that's 30 Sentinels, I believe they're called, from Space Force at the most. And I might get quoted on that, but I might be wrong. You'll see that start to happen. That's low orbit. The new ISR mission, 2030 at the earliest, probably, is when we'll see it.
Mr. Chairman. Can I tell you where we're at without that, with that in there, or do you want to?
I want to add one more thing.
Okay.
And before Ms. Nelson goes on, I contacted her. I have some concerns, you know, our salary package as far as our employees, the long-term employees are coming out with less. That's just the way it is. And they're able to, in cost of living time, probably deal with it easier because they have greater salaries. But I asked Ms. Nelson to compute what it would cost to add $1. We do the $3 longevity pay, what it would cost to go to $4, which would increase if you were maxed out here at our 18 years where we don't count the first 3, would be another $180. And so the cost of giving $1 longevity, an additional $1 longevity to the employees would be $15,586. And I think we should strongly consider doing it. Not a large amount, but it does show that we're concerned about them. We just can't do any more than we can right now. That's what it is. But I'll throw that out for discussion, and maybe people can think about it when you talk to us.
Mr. Chairman, I move the commission, with the stuff that we talked about at the last meeting, adding the 1 mil and then adding the $27,000 for the IT budget, the $5,204 deduct for the extension, we're at 3.66 mil increase, and that's what I've got scanned in here. So the 121 is still in here. That would be a slight deduct if you decided to go that route, but it's not in here yet. I mean, we still have it in our budget, I mean. And then I do not have what he just discussed about the longevity. Increasing it from $3 to $4 with a cap after your 18th year. First 3 years, nothing. And then 15 years, every month you get $4 a month
Instead of 3.
instead of 3
And
Per
so-
hour or
per month.
per month? You get $1.
That's it. It's very
Instead of
small.
$3 a month, you would get $4 a month. So
Right.
at the end of the year, you get $720
Morale person.
instead of $540 after you've been here 18 years.
Yeah, you get an extra $180 if you're a senior employee.
A year.
On that longevity check that they get. And it's, like I said, it's not a 1%, 2%, but we just can't do that right now. So,
Well, you know, I come from state employment. 47 years or 43 years or whatever. I mean, we have minimums and maximums and I get what you're saying and I appreciate, I mean, even though that's a small figure, but we knew that there was a minimum and a maximum. And I can tell you as a state employee, 43 years in, getting excellent reviews every year. I never moved, nor did anybody else I know ever move off middle range. Nobody ever maxed because of the size of salary increases we got. You know, but the thing is that we knew that there was a limit, even though we know we never would reach that, but we knew. And so I get what you're trying to say, but it's like, why do you have the minimum and maximum then?
I think one difference, certainly right now, is we're in competition all the time to get employees and that
As
human
is
resources
everybody.
talks to us. Right, but it's like it's never been before, as far as maintaining employees and keeping them.
But are they gonna stay for?
Well, I'm not sure, but at least
$180 more
what
a
I'm
year?
saying is that we make an effort to try to push forward a little bit to make some gain. We know that we're underpaying a lot of our, especially entry level, but we're gonna have to somehow to try to keep them once we get them in here. But my point is every little bit helps, is all I'm saying, but I'm throwing it out for you guys to look at.
I think it's kind of a morale booster. Just, we care, we wish we could do more, but this is all we can do, so. I don't have a problem with it, that's it.
But on the other hand, I mean, when you've got maxed out,
But we already have the $3.
you
Thank
walk away with a salary, a paycheck
And
for the rest of
benefits.
your life that's probably equal to what you were making while you were employed. So to me, people with longevity would be reasonable. I mean, if they recognize the fact that you're walking away with a paycheck for the rest of your life once you retire, and it's probably the same amount you were getting when you were working.
People are different nowadays. I think human resources would tell us
Okay.
they don't worry as much about pensions as we did. They job jump pretty regularly, and that's a problem for us. But
Maybe they'll jump to the county to work.
what about Commissioner Ross? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, you and I were both there. We know what it was like. It's a hard thing to come up with. I mean, we got tight budgets. And I think every little bit helps. Like you said, for the longevity. I guess, you know, I know law enforcement here in the county is low, probably $10,000 less than the city starts at the PD. And I know there's a lot of jumping. I mean, I can remember when we lost 4 deputies over to Polk County because the benefits and everything were better. So I don't know what we have to do here to retain employees. I really don't. I'm at a loss.
Commissioner Peach, any thoughts?
I agree that I think some incentives or additional incentives, we're trying to make an effort to thank our employees, to let them know, granted, it's $1 and you don't get much for $1 anymore. But at least we're trying to make an effort. Part of the thing, I guess, that really I think about, and maybe I'm going back to the base thing, is Mr. Ford and I were recently at a meeting that was held at what electric company, Mr. Ford?
Minn Kota, ma'am.
Minn Kota. Our congressmen were there. Our mayor was there. Many legislators were there. They were talking about base, the installation. I attended, Mr. Ford attended, and I felt this was important, yet none of the rest, and I'm not pointing fingers, I don't want to be disrespectful, because I know we've had various things at the base where I think we were expected to attend and not all of us attended. And I just don't know at this point if we're ready to go out and fly on autopilot. I think we need a better job. We need to do a better job of attending functions, both city functions, county functions, particularly military installation functions if we're invited, or to get to the vendors that we have at Grand Sky. You know, I know that it's tough to see our budget increase, but we have held the weight for a number of years for the school district and for the city. And they would have increases in taxes and we didn't, luckily. And we asked our managers not to build buildings, not to look at the best we could do, not hiring additional staff, trying to keep maybe our fleet down. And I know Sheriff Schneider, you found an alternative to buying cars by leasing them, just trying to think outside the box. And I don't want to be disrespectful of anyone, and I think we need to be very appreciative of the staff we have. We do have a change in our staff that are coming in. Young individuals aren't so concerned about retirement. They're not as concerned about benefits, particularly healthcare, because they're young. They're probably not having a lot of healthcare issues that we may assume as we age. They tend to, our new generation tends to keep a job for about 3 years, and then they go on and look for something different with better pay. Maybe it's a job that they don't really enjoy anymore, or they go looking for not as much as benefit heavy positions, but dollar heavy positions. They want to be the consumer and they want to be the earner of wages, but then they want to make choices. And retirement is not as important as it used to be. Neither is healthcare, because a lot of young individuals don't even care if they have healthcare, if they don't doctor, if they try to keep themselves healthy with eating and a number of things. Oftentimes they're not concerned about healthcare until potentially they may have a partner and be thinking about having a baby or, you know, starting a family. So I do care about our new employees, and we do need to get better at being comparable. The wages in North Dakota and Minnesota are not even comparable, depending upon what the positions are. Try to find somebody with the CDL nowadays, you know, for our highway department, it's non-existent. It's like, you gotta do everything you can to get them to apply and then train them, or get them behind the wheels of a big piece of equipment where they do need a CDL. It's tough, it's very tough. But I think that we've got some solutions to make, and we do need to move forward, I believe, with the $4 instead of the $3. And I agree that with Commissioner Engen that we need to hang on to these consultants. Because we're not ready to, like I said, we're not ready to be an autopilot, and rarely are 3 people at some of the functions we should all be at. And I'm including myself as well. I'm not pointing any fingers, they're pointing back at me. And I need to do a better job and making sure that we represent the county. We're still in baby steps or toddler steps with Grand Sky. I mean, there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of, we gotta, and you know, I know that we've had the issue that the city of Grand Forks gets a lot more attention than the county. Well, there's 5 of us as compared to 1 mayor. And we need to make sure that we're present at those things too, and that we continue to remind the public that this was our project from the beginning. It wasn't the city of Grand Forks, and we need to do a better job. So I don't know, I'm gonna make a motion and it could die. I'm gonna move that we do the $4 increase that was discussed. I'm also going to move that we continue with the half-year contract with the consultants that we have, and that we accept the budget at this point that is on our screen, not having the full year for the consultants, but a half year. And this is still a preliminary budget. We have to do the budget hearing and things like that, but I'm going to move that we.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I think we need to take them as separate motions.
I do.
Okay.
Different viewpoints.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
So let's take the motion on the adding the $1 to longevity pay first.
I would make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Ross. Do we have any further discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Knopf is opposed. The motion passes. Now relative to the consultants, your motion is to retain them through June 30th of next year.
Correct. And then half the amount that's in the existing budget at this time.
One visit.
And 1 visit, yes.
So all in favor?
Second.
Oh yeah, second, excuse me. Second by Commissioner Engen. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion fails. I think Commissioner Knopf, Frost, and Falk voted against it, so. So the consultants won't be in our budget for next year.
I voted against that dollar. I mean,
Yeah, hey,
because of
enough of that.
nothing. I mean, you could do something else, I think. Give an extra $1.
Well, it's actually, if you're a top employee, it's $180, so,
Well, right.
or, you know, it's just senior employee. Okay, now we've solved some of the questions you had, Michelle.
Mr. Chairman, member of the commission, I need a motion to approve the 2023 preliminary budget as presented, including the 2 motions you just made. which includes a 5% cost of living increase on January 1st, 2023, including the sheriff, state's attorney, and the commission, and a step increase for qualified employees on their seniority date in 2023.
I would make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Ross. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Egan. Any further discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I need a motion to set the budget hearing. I already had it. I have one down. For September 6th, 2022 at 4 p.m.
Okay, can we have a motion? So moved. Motion by Commissioner Ross to set the budget hearing for September 6th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Peach. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
And finally, I would like to have a motion on how we currently are handling our ARPA funds. With the final ruling that came out, we were allowed to elect to use $10 million for any governmental purpose. And so I would just like to put that into a motion. And it also talks about how we review for ARPA sub-recipient agreements, myself, the state's attorney, and the director of administration. So I will read the motion. Grand Forks County has received $13,490,043 in American Rescue Plan Act funds and has selected the standard allowance of up to $10 million in revenue loss to use for any governmental purpose, which is allowed by the U.S. Treasury final rule. All ARPA sub-recipient agreements requests for reimbursement will be reviewed by the finance director, the director of administration, and the state's attorney to verify compliance with the agreement before making the reimbursement. And that is what we're currently doing.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for discussion purposes.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Knopf. Is there a second?
I'll second that
We
motion.
have a second, and Commissioner Knopf, you,
So my question is that $10,000 that
$10
we,
million.
or 10 million that the county can use? We can't use more than that?
we
Up to 10 million, is all we can use.
Okay,
we
all right.
don't even have 10 million,
No, I know that.
so.
I know that.
But the rule is it's up to 10 million. You cannot, regardless of how much you got, if you got over 10 million, 10 million. If you got less than 10 million, you can't use 10 million.
Okay.
Really?
Makes sense. Okay. So any further discussion?
Just a question on how much we have left in that we're talking about. That is unspent.
Let me tell you. There's $4 million, but that includes, you had set aside some money for the infirmary at the correctional center and 1.4 for the Icon architectural work. So $2.4 million in addition to the $4 million.
Six.
We're gonna have a meeting on that, and we talked about a lot of that, hopefully for some of the costs out of the okay, so any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Ms. Nelson?
And it's it.
Okay, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I feel compelled to say very quickly, since 2014, Grand Forks community has seen a lot of success in Grand Sky and base retention and promotion. And a lot of that can be attributed to General Rue and General Finley's guidance, expertise, and their reputations in their consulting role with the community. My recommendations today were just me fulfilling my role to the commission and economics and knowing where the base and Grand Sky are at today. So, but I confidently will say that they had a major role to play in guiding the community into its success. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the item you have up on your screens is the project management contract with CMTA. This, if you recall, you approved their proposal at the last commission meeting to be the project manager. This is for updating, repairing, and replacing the cooling system in the courthouse. In the project management scope, they're proposing a schedule for a fee of $47,800. I think that's a little less than what their proposal came in at. So requesting approval and chair's signature to accept the project management contract. And if there's any technical questions, Mr. Yashewski is here to answer them. And I know Ms. Lomstead did review it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would move approval of this proposal.
Okay, do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Knopf. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you. The only other thing I have, Mr. Chair, is an update. I have been in the process of working with Northeast Human Services on renegotiating their lease. I don't believe we've had any adjustments to their lease rates since 2019. So I did propose some terms. I'm waiting to hear back from the state on those. That was based on commission direction. That does include the same footprint. So all of fourth floor and then most of fifth floor, except for that 3,800 square feet that they surrendered back to us. So we'll update the commission as things progress.
No, that would be for next year,
That
right?
would be for the next biennium.
Because that all has to go to the legislature.
Correct, because they need to get that appropriated.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. That's good.
I just have a question on that. So is the commission going to have any conversation about that? The only reason I ask is because we know there's a need for office space and we've got the 3,800 feet, but we also could have 3 other wings.
Yeah,
You know, if, it seems like with Northeast, it keeps going down. We get less and less every time we renegotiate. And that's good on their part that they're doing that. It's expected. But again, I think the commission needs to have that conversation about your needs, our needs here, as far as staffing and space. And I've given that a lot of thought, and I think that we could make that work, or you could make that work.
They go back to the ham center.
Uh-huh.
They go
Well,
back to the ham center.
I mean, they've been good partners, and we appreciate the time that we've had with them, and it's worked. But county is in a position where, either we take back some of our own spots or we build a $35 million new office building. And you can't afford that.
I think long-term, it's something to think about. Short-term, we don't have a need for the space right now, and we don't have anybody to rent it to other than Northeast.
Right, but I think that you need to start having those conversations so that you can let them know that at some point in time, we're looking at taking back all of it.
Yeah,
Or you're looking
I
at
think that's
taking back all of
really
it.
long-term. That's out there so far, I couldn't even imagine before
All
we
right.
take it back, all of it. Yes.
How would that play into what the city is telling us as far as moving the sheriff's office out of where they are? They've been very generous to let us stay there, but is there a sunset to that?
Well, the last time I talked to the mayor, he indicated he could go out as far as 7 years. We had to, and the chief would try to accommodate us, and I said we'd try to get
So if we
out of
were,
there before then.
so if we were to eventually use that space for the sheriff's office in this building, this is a 2-year lease?
Yes, sir, it would be extended another 2 years,
So, I mean,
23 to 25.
we'd have the flexibility at some point to do something about that if we want to.
Yeah, and then we, even if we had that space for remodel, let's say that, for instance, the sheriff's office would be considered to move in there, it would be pretty costly remodeling for that, for them, for security and everything else. So that'd be a complete change over that space. So we'd have to find the money at that point.
The cheapest new building perhaps.
It would be.
So would the city
Right
give
now, we
us-
don't have the money for a new building either. so-
Did the city give us something in writing that says we have 7 years?
No. That's just good faith.
That, they'd have to retain the sheriff's office to evict us, so I think we're safe.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
Motion that was made to set the budget hearing.
Yes.
Need to change that.
okay,
September 6th, it can't be September 6th.
okay, let's
It
see
has
that.
to be September 20th.
Oh,
Yes. So. Can we
Sure.
modify that motion?
I would entertain a motion to withdraw the budget hearing from September 6th and reset it to September 20th.
Make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ross. Second by Commissioner Peach. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And as, before I forget,
Thank you.
to clean something up here, I see, when I saw that agreement between, that Ms. Swanson brought us, I think it is between the city and the county on health, I see there's a chair's signature side on that. That isn't part of the motion. Yes,
I'll make it as part of the motion.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Peach. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so we clean that up. Okay. Next, yeah, the state's attorney, do you have anything?
They may have turned down the volume on their TV.
Mr. Chair, I do not have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports. Commissioner Ross,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Engen,
Economic development meeting 10 days ago with the directors and advisors, which is a big group, roundtable kind of thing. And there's another one, meeting of directors this week. That's all I have.
Commissioner
I have nothing.
Knopf, okay, you got it to me before I got to you. Okay, Commissioner Peach.
I have nothing to report.
And the only thing I have is you've got I think, Mr. Ford, you sent out the home rule material to take a look at. I think we have to decide that at the next meeting in order for Ms. Nelson to get it on the ballot. So please review through it. That's the final documents from the home rule committee.
Yeah.
Commissioner
One thing I
Engen.
should have mentioned is we're gonna have a town hall on the home rule charter issue in Northwood on the 15th, no, 23rd, Tracy, right? 23rd this month. So if you can make that, we're interested.
August 23rd,
August 23rd at the community center in Northwood.
the time, sir.
There's a-
7:30, I think we said, right?
That's right. There's one in Amaretto on the 18th
Yeah,
and
that
6th.
That was one of the days we were thinking of, but that'll be the Memorial one, 15th. So we're trying to get the word out and answer questions.
Okay,
I have a question
yes, Commissioner Knopf.
for Commissioner Ross and MPO. So we didn't get the bridge grant Was that for the mayor field?
Oh,
That
that's-
was, that was Nick's deal. Yeah,
That was the Burke edition.
yeah, that was an
Oh, that one,
issue.
okay,
Yeah,
all
it
right.
wasn't actually even considered, it didn't rate high enough to be put on the
Right.
reserve list, so, yeah, it's unfortunate news, but
I don't believe any North Dakota application was approved.
I couldn't remember what bridge it was.
So we're down to unfinished new business. Correspondence. Taking important there, we have Safe Kids and a letter from Sherry Amundson North.
Yeah. I believe Sherry Amundson Norman is asking, I was thinking for you to appoint her to that board. It says to vote.
Mhm.
I don't know if you get to vote as a county commissioner for the state fair director. So I guess she's asking for your vote.
Yeah.
And just a thank you, so, from Safe Kids.
Okay. We've reached the end of the agenda, Mr. Ross. What do you say?
I would make a motion, Richard.
Okay, we have a second.
One second.
We have a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bob, I have.
Hey,
Oh, shoot.